Have you ever found yourself talking to yourself and saying, "That was a dumb thing to do. How stupid can you get? Why'd you do that, dummy?" Well, today we're going to talk about your self-talk and how to make it more positive rather than negative. I'm Dr. George Flynn, and you're watching In-Depth TV. Today, positive self-talk, how to get it, how to make it automatic. You know, positive self-talk can be quickly obtained and managed by managing your negative talk. You can manage it in a very simple and straightforward way that the positive self-talk becomes addictive. And you can use the power of your own suggestion simply by changing the phrases that you use when you talk to yourself. Now, everybody talks to themselves. That conversation that's going on in your brain. Your self-talk is a form of self-suggestion. You know, if you say, "Man, I feel terrible," and all of a sudden you're feeling terrible. Or, "Man, I feel great," and all of a sudden you're feeling great. So your automatic thoughts or your self-talks are programming you minute by minute. And yet, some people say it's self-suggestion, but either way, you're automatically continuing the same line of thoughts that you used until you decided to make a change. Most people say you have about 40,000 thoughts a day, about 95% or 98% the same thoughts you had yesterday. So, what is positive self-talk? Well, first of all, let's talk about what it is and why you might want it. Positive self-talk is a way that internal voice, that voice inside you, talks to you that uplifts and encourages you. Now, there have been a lot of studies, and they've shown that people who maintain a positive mode of being have numerous benefits and effects. Now, one of the benefits is that positive, there's a group of psychologists that are positive psychologists. One of the benefits is they have more brain available for them to use. So the more positive you become, the more aptitude you have for achieving results. In other words, having more brain to use equals having better ability to think, which equals making your life work smarter, not harder. Okay, so let's move on to distinguishing. You say, "Well, I'm a little confused now. What is positive self-talk and what is negative self-talk?" Well, how do we start to be more positive in our self-talk? And how do we make positive self-talks, more automatic? Well, you're now using your automatic power of suggestion either positively or negatively. You're using it. Now, it's one way or the other. Like I said earlier, positive self-talk is that internal voice that uplifts and encourages us. Sometimes, though, our inner talk isn't guiding us as positively as we would like for it to. Take these two examples. You say, "Well, I won't fail. I've got to do this. I'm scared, but I'm doing it anyway." Or, "I choose to do this. I'm moving towards success, and I have the power to make this work." Now, number one, you feel those words. It says, "I'm scared, but I'm going to do it." Let the energy around that, talk about it about 10 seconds. "I won't fail. I've got to do this. I'm scared, but I'm doing it anyway." Now, how does that make you feel? Maybe a little motivated? Now, what about the second example? "I choose to do this. I'm moving towards success. I have the power to make this work." How'd you feel? Relieved? Well, I just did this. I took a sigh of relief with the second phrase. It made me feel good. So which of these, now they were both relatively positive statements, except one said, I'm scared. Which made you feel uplifted and encouraged you? Which made you feel relaxed? Did you feel that number one was sort of like a drill sergeant saying, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, trying to motivate you to do something against all odds? Sometimes motivating ourselves that way works. But wouldn't it be nicer to move to the next level and have that absolutely positive self-talk that comes from a place of power? That second example now comes from a place of power. Look at it. Now let's look again. I choose. There's no victim here. You say, I choose to do this. I am moving. I'm taking action. I have the power. That's encouraging you to be powerful. Now, I know these two examples are fairly extreme, but both of them are sort of positive, but I wanted to make the point that sometimes our inner talk isn't helping us as best it can. There are other choices to make in the same situation. Even though they're both positive, sometimes we can be more positive. The same rules we use for these affirmations should be applied to managing your self-talk. Now let's look for the positive twist of any phrase or situation. When you find yourself focused on pushing yourself through something, take a break, find a gentler, better feeling way to accomplish the same goal. You know, you're pushing your way through it, just take a break and let's be gentle with ourselves. And let's rely on your own emotional intelligence to guide you into a better feeling state, a little more relaxed. And by the way, anything that we're thinking in our heads, eventually, get ready for this, anything you're thinking in your head eventually comes out of your mouth. So if you want to keep positive speech in your life, start with what you're saying to yourself in your head. How do you do it? How do you start to be more positive? Well, the first step is to become aware. Become aware of what you're thinking day and night. You know, sometimes you're just unaware. And this train of thought that runs through your head rampantly like a locomotive, you know, you got to get in the middle of that inner talk, stand on the tracks of it and say, stop. So the first step is to bring your awareness to what you're thinking about. What are you thinking about? Sounds simple enough? Okay, but how do you do that when you're, say, taking the kids to soccer or you're doing something else and have a million things to do? How do you do it? Well, the key to it is just start. Just start. Start to notice what goes on in your head. Are you worried? What is worry? Worry is a negative visualization. Worry is thinking about what you don't want to happen, not what you do want to happen. You know, you're broadcasting these thoughts to the universe about something you don't want to happen. And how do I say you're broadcasting? Because your facial expressions, micro expressions, your general, the way you walk, the way you talk, they're broadcasting to everyone what's going on in your head, even though you don't think you're doing it, even though you think you're faking a smile, even though people can tell, others can tell, and your brain can tell. So, stop it in the tracks. Just say, stop. Now, you can either say it out loud or you can say it internally. Now, if you're walking down the street in a busy city, I think you'll all agree, it's kind of crazy to say, stop out loud. So let's don't do that. Just say it to yourself. I don't know about you, but I don't think there are people out there who are walking down the streets and talking out loud to themselves or practicing positive thinking. Now, we used to think that people running down the street talking to themselves were, have a little mental challenge. Now, they may have a thing in their ear. They can talk all they want and get away with it. People think, well, they're on the phone. But you can get away with it. Just put some earphones in your ear and say, stop. People won't think a thing of it. But if you're in your car alone, just, you might keep it to yourself. Do anything to stop that negative thinking. Put on a movie. Go for a walk. Get further into work. Close your eyes and take an imaginary trip to the mountains, the shore, seashore, Hawaii, wherever you want to go. Do whatever it takes to keep that train halted. Let's think about something else. Now, if you want to talk about positive things, there's a very cute Bob Newhart video that makes the point. And if you have time, take a minute to go there and watch it. It's called Stop It. It's a Bob Newhart video, and I think you'll love it. But just go on YouTube and look up Stop It, Bob Newhart. Now, what are you learning from this experience? How can you make this experience different? Well, what do you do? How do you become powerful and take action? Yes, be powerful, take action once you've stopped the negative thinking. And before you know it, the positive self-talk starts rolling down the tracks. And it takes a while to get up speed and momentum, but when it does, it creates positive automatic thoughts. So you've become aware of the negative things. Now you're getting ready to take charge of your inner talk by stopping the negative things, negative talk, reroute the negative things to a positive thoughts. Your self-image begins to change. It changes internally first. Then what happens? Externally, it changes. You're more happier. You're more happy. You start dressing differently. You become more active. You become more energetic. People are drawn to you. Instead of complaining all the time, you take action. Instead of letting your drill sergeant say, you're terrible, you're terrible, you're gentler with yourself. You've become more gentler. Is that a word? You've become more gentle with yourself. You've become more peaceful on the inside and the outside. Internal change brings the external change. Now, we've all heard about that. But what if the external work you've been doing by constantly altering your thoughts actually can change you on a deeper level? Well, there are hormones in your body that are triggered when you have a happy emotion. And we can get physically addicted to whatever thoughts we're constantly thinking. Because whatever you're constantly thinking, you're thinking all the time. So if you always want to be angry, you put out angry chemicals, and they're all over your body. They raise your blood pressure. They fight or flight. Your body's got to get used to these new positive chemicals that are going on in your brain. And this is natural. There's no external drugs. These are natural hormones and natural chemicals that are in your body, and the positive thinking secretes those. Okay, you've interrupted that angry process by externally switching to positive self-talk. You've changed that data feed in your system. So if you're originally addicted to anger, you can remove that chemical and replace it with the calm chemistry. Your body will actually help you replacing the anger receptors with calm receptors, which cycles back into more calm chemistry in your system. Therefore, you got more receptors. It's all very scientific. Be sure to check out your body and see what's happening. And by the way, they present a very funny way of doing it in a movie. What the Bleep is the movie. What the Bleep. It's basically What the Bleep Do We Know. Yet the movie is very dry and scientific, but the part that drives it home is hysterical. Positive self-talk is your inner talk that encourages and uplifts you. That's right. It encourages you. It uplifts you. It puts you in a better mood. It puts a smile on your face. It puts a spring in your step. It makes you a positive person. Now, how did this happen? Positive self-talk. Being gentle with yourself. And if you're used to saying, oh, that was a silly thing to do, that was a dumb thing to do, an easy way to change that is to say, well, that's mighty odd for someone as smart and as influential as I am to take that course of action. I don't believe I'll do that again, rather than beating yourself up, saying, you dummy, you should never do that, you'll never get it right, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and you should just go home and hide your head for a week. No, you just say, you know, I'm a very smart person, and that is very rare for me to take that action and be thinking like that. I believe I'll change that, and I believe I won't take that action anymore. And if there are any amends to make, I'm just going to go tell somebody if I said something wrong, I'm going to tell them I'm sorry, and I won't do that again. That's the positive self-talk, rather than, hey, you're terrible. Now, I think you know what I'm talking about. So we need to change your addiction from negative thinking to positive thinking, and it's doable. A lot of people are addicted to the negative. Now let's see why. You know, they have on the newscast, breaking news, they have negative things that come up because in our past, in our DNA, we were always trained to be looking for the negative, looking for the danger, looking for the bad things to happen, because that was survival. If you hear rustling in the bushes, it might be your dinner, or it might be that you're somebody else's dinner or some other animal's dinner. And so we're always looking for something that could harm us. And our body is trying to keep what's called equilibrium. It doesn't want us to be harmed. It wants us to survive. So we want to become positive thinkers, looking at the positive things going on. Now, why? In this day and time, we're not always looking for animals to attack us. We're not always looking for the dangers in the world. We can bring the world to another level. And I'm talking about our lives to another level. We've got the basics. We've got the basic safety. We've got the basic foods. We've got the basic shelter. Now it's time to do something more positive in life to help others. Help others. And how do you do this? Well, the first thing you do is you remember we're going to become aware of our thoughts, aware of what we're thinking. And you find yourself thinking about, oh, this could happen, or that could happen, or this could be bad. Stop it in its tracks and say, now, why am I thinking this? Why is this going through my head? You say, well, you know, it always goes through my head. Well, always, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. Now, that was a lot of always. But if you always do and think what you've always thought, you'll always get what you've always gotten. It's very simple. So it's not going to change anything. And it was Einstein that said, insanity is, and I'm paraphrasing this, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, there we are. We don't need to think negatively all the time. As a matter of fact, we don't even need to think negatively any of the time. Why not think positively about it? You have a choice. It's your choice. What do you want? So become aware of what you're thinking. And if you find yourself thinking negatively, say, why am I doing this? Stop them and consciously flip these things, flip these thoughts to positive. Let's take an example. Well, something was negative. You almost had a car wreck or accident. And you, rather than get angry and say, because that's the natural thing to do when you're in the negative thinking mode, get angry at the person that almost hit you in a car, you stop, and you might even pull over and stop and be thankful. Be thankful that you weren't hit. Be thankful and wish them well. That is flipping the negative thinking into positive thinking. Be thankful. And say you get caught in a light and your light is long and you're in a car and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. You can't wait to get away from that light. And so the light turns green and you go. And you right down the street, there's a car wreck happening right in front of your eyes, and you think to yourself, wow, that's a car wreck. Well, what about the positive part of that? Well, I got caught by that light. Rather than being mad being caught by the light, you were held up. You were not in that car wreck. Or there may be a near miss. You say, if I hadn't been held up in that light, I'd have been in a wreck. I might have been hurt. But as it was, there was a miss and everything came out great. There's a story about, it's a true story. My father was in Savannah, Georgia during World War II. And he was driving a group of generals, and he was driving them to the airport. And they saw the airline, the airplane, it was an air transport, saw him getting ready to close the door, so he went flying up there. And by the time the car, all the generals and everything were in the car, by the time they got there, the plane had left the gate and they'd missed the plane. And they were really very angry about missing that airplane. Very angry. And so they were getting ready to drive back to wherever the base was. And they were all just fuming about it. And the plane took off. And as it was taking off, it crashed. It caught on fire. And all of a sudden, through all of the curse words and all of the anger, they looked around and they became very silent. And one of them said, "Thank you. Thank you for us missing that airplane. We would be dead right now had we not missed that airplane." So that's the way you need to look at life, in the positive. It saved them. It can save you. It can save you a lot of time, save you a lot of worry, save your blood pressure. Positive thoughts are what make positive self-talk. Remember, whatever's going on in your head is going to eventually come out of your mouth. Because things that come out of your mouth, they start in your head. And what's in there is going to come out. It's like squeezing an orange. If you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice. But if you squeeze an orange, do you expect lemon juice to come out? No, it's what's inside the orange. It's what's inside there is what comes out. So remember that. Whatever is going on in your head is going to come out in some way, shape, or form. So you remember, who has control of what's going on in your head? You do. Of course you do. You can think about whatever you want to think about. Let's have an experiment. Think about a pink elephant. Now, don't think about a pink elephant. What did you have to do to not think about a pink elephant? You had to think about a pink elephant in order to erase the thought of the pink elephant. So you controlled your thinking. Think about a green car with black polka dots. You controlled that. I just suggested it to you, but you made the thoughts. You did it. You have just proven to yourself that you control your own thoughts. And you can make those thoughts positive or negative. It's just a habit, and it's what you've been doing. So be kind to yourself. And that's the secret to making the whole thing work. Being kind to yourself. You know, if you're not kind to yourself, who else is going to be kind to you? That's right. If you're not kind to yourself, who else will be? Now, there are a lot of people out there that will try to show you kindness, but if you're not being kind to yourself, you won't be able to accept it. You won't even see it happening out there. So let's be kind to ourselves so that we can see that other people are out there in the world being kind to us. After all, if you're being kind to yourself, wouldn't it make sense that your chemical factory, all of these things going on in your head, all the serotonin, the epinephrine, the norepinephrine, all of the chemicals in your head, and these are chemicals, some are yet to be named. If you're putting out all these chemicals, wouldn't it be nice to have them flowing around in your body? It'd be nice. What's the key? Positive self-talk. Take the first step. Make the self-talk positive. Talk to yourself. Think good thoughts. Think kind things. Think thoughts that uplift you, that excite you, that make you know life is worth living, especially when you're happy, healthy, terrific, and able to help other people. You know, you got your family. You got your brother, sister, mother, father, wife, daughter, son. You got maybe grandkids. You got all of these people. They're looking to you as an example. Show them the happy example that you are. Show them the happy example that they can be. And show them this video so that they know how to do it. I'm Dr. George Flynn. You've been watching In-Depth TV. Think positive thoughts, and I'll see you next time.